So the idea of that song, Ghosts on the Ground, think about what that is. Think about the more metaphysical meaning. What does it mean when we have ghosts on the ground? Could the ground be our human nature? Where we are, where we have thought, and that thought is free to be wherever it is? And the ghost is that unconscious pattern of thought that's in our mind that is constantly playing and replaying itself? And then what happens when that pattern of thought that we don't realize is continually playing itself in the background? What happens? There's a law, and that law creates that. So we have these experiences over and over again. And what are those experiences? Addictions. And what are addictions? Addictions are expectations that are on a proverbial loop within our mind that we can't let go of. Isn't that a fascinating way to consider it, to conceive it, to embody it, to look at it? So my talk today is about the idea of expectation. And expectation is everything. And when a society breaks down, or a human life breaks down, it's because of misplaced expectations. It's about the idea of looking toward what's happening. So if we go into, let's just look at today. Let's just look at today. There's no greater time in the world than to look at what's happening out there. And we understand something. Let's understand something. What makes the economy move? What makes the market move? What makes things in business world move? Consumer confidence. It's not whether a company does anything right or does it wrong. It's about what is the confidence of the people that are considered the consumers. And what does that confidence have to do with? It has to do with what is their idea. What is the idea going on in the people out there? So what is the idea that's penetrating the minds of the country of the United States at this time? Holy bejeebas. We got the Donald. We got the Cruz. We got the Rubio. We got the Clinton. We got the Byrne. We got ISIS. We've got the Taliban. We've got the people fighting for this religion, the people fighting for that religion. We've got immigration here. We've got immigration there. And what is it all based on? Fear. What is the expectation? Not enough. Is the expectation one of oneness? Is the expectation that we are all created from the same beingness, that we're all a point of consciousness within the creation that is God, and that we are faced with the idea that we are creating our lives at every moment? Is that what's going on in our minds? Here it is. Our job is really simple. It's to look at the world and understand that we live in an unlimited universe. We are not confined to the ideas of our parents. We are not confined to the ideas in the schools. We are certainly not confined to the ideas of our politicians. This country was founded on the basis of we the people. And so it's the people's consciousness that raises the vibration of this country. The idea is that we have to unplug ourselves from a consciousness that's being created for us to manipulate and control us to fit into a prescribed box that has been formed out there, not intentionally. I'm not into conspiracy, but the collective consciousness does form a box. But here's the thing. We have the power to change that consciousness within ourselves, within everyone that comes around us. So I'm saying this is a time when we have to step forward and we have to be bold. And what does bold mean? It means do not judge. But stand clear in who you are. Be not afraid to speak your word. Be not afraid to question. Be not afraid to think beyond what's there and see something beyond. Because it's so important, because we were brought into this planet to be individuals. We were not brought in to be postage stamps. Our experience is based and conditioned by our expectation. Because two people can have the exact same experience, time in and time out. They will have different completely, the way they see it, the way they hear it, and everything. Because within them, they have an expectation. Some people viewed, I remember, I'm going back to one of my favorite days in the world. It's before wife. I say that so you all understand that. It was prom. And I had a lot of people And I'm reminded of that because I all of a sudden went to my Facebook page, and I'm of the class of 69. And our motto was, we give a damn. But I'll be damned, most of my classmates are dying. And I'm sitting there saying, how is it they look so old and I'm only 22? How is that possible? Because my expectation is I look 22. Now, you may not think I do. That doesn't matter. When I look in the mirror, I see 22. You see, the expectation of life is what's coming forward. What I'm seeing in people that are of my generation is they're about retiring. Well, retirement means die. I'm about what's a new idea that's desiring to be birthed at this time in my life. How can I be of greater service? How can I take the gifts that I've accumulated throughout my corporate world and now into my ministerial path? How can I take those gifts and be of service in the world? And when you've got 64 years of wisdom where I've done it all, not all, but I've done a lot. Some of it I'm proud of, some of it I'm not proud of. But I embrace it all. I embrace every aspect of what I've done because it's made me the person I am now. And my expectation that I've created for myself is I've got gifts to bring to the world. Because when someone comes to me and wants to talk about what's it like for this, what's it like for that, I can say, oh, I've been there. I got some ideas to share with you, and you get to choose how it is. But see, our expectation of the world is an expectation we have of ourselves. Go there. So if you expect the economy to be bad, you have a limited abundance consciousness on yourself. Are you hearing that? If you are there focused that I got to be careful about the idea that there's divorce, and if I get married, there's a 50% chance I'm going to get divorced, then you believe about yourself, I'm not worthy of a lifetime relationship. You hearing me? Because what you believe about the outside is what you believe about yourself. The outside experience that you have is only a mirror about your inner beliefs. Chew on that one for a while. That's a tough one because it's not that stuff isn't happening around us. It's happening, and a lot of it's horrific. But how are you looking at it? What are you seeing it as? Are you seeing that everything that is happening for the overall unfoldment and raising of the consciousness of the world? Are you seeing that everything that happens has to happen that way for the overall consciousness to be raised to a higher vibration? I was brought up in the 60s, and I remember the riots that happened in Detroit, Michigan, because I lived there at that time. And my father was a fireman in Dearborn, next to Detroit, and he had to go into Detroit, and he was being shot at. And these riots, I didn't understand what it was. And then as I started to get, I was a senior at that time, and I started to understand more what was happening, and I realized there were people that were suppressed that were so bogged down that they had nothing else to do but to strike out. Well then, in my naivety, I go to college in 69, 70s, and I'm a part of all the movements. I marched here, I marched there. I was part of that type of scenario about free women. No, not free women. I want you to know, through my 64 years of experience, there is no such thing as a free woman. You got to know that. But as I watched it, I thought we had healed. I remember as a senior in high school, I was on the leading edge, and I got into a human rights program where I went and lived with an African-American family in the inner city of Detroit for a week. And then my partner, who was a gentleman there, came and lived with us in Dearborn. Dearborn was an all-white community. And I brought him to school with me, to an all-white school. And I remember people coming at me and mocking me. How can you do that? How can you do that? And I said, we're all people. We're all people. And so I went to college, and my first roommate in college, I had a black gentleman, Vic. Vic was a person on the baseball team, and we got to really know each other. We would sit there at night in our beds, and we would just be talking as guys, and you realize we're all just human. We have the same wants, the same needs, and we have the same fears, all at different levels. And I realized my expectation began to change. I expect people to be like me. I expect people within themselves, at the very core of who they are, to want to know more about what is it that makes you tick? How can we support each other? How can we help each other? How can we become a greater expression of love? I believe that's at the core of everyone, but people can't see it because of where they are. But we can change our expectation of them. So what's happening in the world today is, I thought we'd healed. The fact of the matter is, we haven't. There's so much more healing that has to happen, and we have to look at everything going on now, and we have to build an expectation that what's happening in the world is about healing the planet. It's about healing the human consciousness. And when we can take that approach, we're not going to be beat up. We're not going to look at it as bad. Donald Trump is there to heal the planet. Cruz is heal the planet. Hillary is there to heal the planet. Now, I may not agree with any of them on how to heal the planet, but their consciousness is a part of the healing. And the second we get into judgment about them, where we have emotion, we're in the trap of being separate. Do you hear me there? The second we have emotion about a candidate, we are separate. We're not in love. And if we're not in love, we don't love ourselves. Because if we can't love what's out us, we can't love what's in us. That's one to chew on. See, what we believe about ourselves becomes the law of attraction to us. So if we look at politics and we buy into all of that, and we believe that that's going on, the law of attraction becomes that to us. All of the negative, all of the judgment, everything that we put out there, we're saying to the universe, let me have more. Let me be judged. Let me feel lack. Let me be mocked. Is that what we want? But you see, we don't realize that. We don't understand that this universal law that's out there doesn't care. It doesn't care. It just does this. Life allows us to think whatever we want, and it always produces what we think. That came to me. That is one of those revelations from my hot tub. I was thinking about, the law of attraction, and this new way of saying it just sort of surfaced. And I really love this. Life allows us. It gives us the freedom. Isn't that what the United States was founded on? We are free. And here's the misnomer, and I talked about this last week. We're not free to pursue. It's not the pursuit of happiness, because happiness is an illusion. But we're free to create our divine purpose in the world and understand that everything that we experience is on the way to creating that purpose and not in the way. And when we embrace that it's on the way and not in the way, then we don't have an emotional charge. We're not frustrated. We're not beat up. We're not going to have that. We're going to have roadblocks, because roadblocks are just decision points, and decision points leads us to a new decision, which takes us toward our goal. So we have to be in a place of, what did I say? Love is when we can be grateful for every single thing that happens in our lives. Because every single thing that happens into our lives takes us to a point of consciousness that becomes clearer. And as it becomes clearer, we now have a clearer path. And so we're able to be guided and directed and moved by the inner power within us. You see, there's a divine wisdom within us that is guiding and directing our every thought, word, and deed, if we open to be able to hear that. And then once we hear that, we've got to know that that power that creates is within me, and it is working through me and for me, and it consciously creates and causes everything that I would desire. That's why we must be the guardians of our minds. And so that mind produces, but it also goes next to this. And I love this. A divided mind cannot create anything new. So if we're over here in judgment on politics, and we're looking for infinite abundance over here, do we not have a divided mind? And what happens in our lives? Stays constant, can't change. If we're judging a relationship over here, and we're desiring to have a perfect relationship over here, what happens to our relationship? Nothing, it doesn't change. A divided mind cannot change anything. A divided mind keeps the status quo. That's what's happening. People out there, listen to what's being said. It's about dividing the country. It's about dividing the world. It's about dividing and causing creation. When I'm up there at the Chamber of Commerce in Frisco and Plano every Thursday and Wednesday, when I say the Pledge of Allegiance, I'm pledge allegiance to the idea of the world. One idea manifest under God, and the world is under God. I am not saying it's the United States alone, because that's separation. That's bold. That's not what it's about. Our forefathers didn't think that way. It's only that we've adopted that as a thing. Yes, we are the greatest country in the world. We've got the greatest opportunities here because we've got the greatest freedoms. Let's express that freedom and allow people to think as they want to think, be as they want to be, so that we become a model to the world, not a mockery in the world. Ooh, minister's preaching today. The last statement. The most important thing you do is you keep your mind focused on only what you want. You don't care what your partner says. You don't care what your children say, your husband say, anyone says. Your mind is your vessel. It's your sacred tabernacle. I remember growing up in the Catholic Church. Remember the Catholic Church? The priest would turn to the altar and he would go back here and he would unlock the sacred door and bring out the host. That's your sanctuary. That's where you keep your mind with all of the thoughts and all of your wants, all of your desires, and you don't allow anyone to touch them. That's your sacredness. That's the essence of God. That's your uniqueness. Do you hear that? That's your uniqueness. That's the perfection of who you are. That's why you were brought into this form. Not why you were brought, why you chose to come into this human form so that you could take your gifts and give them. Now realize this, we're all going to discover our gifts at various ages in life. You're not going to get it at 5, 6, 7. I didn't get it till later in life. But now that you've got the gift, you become alive. You become young again. When you find that fire within you, that desire within you to go out and express, you become young. You become the 22-year-old while the rest of your classmates are dying. See, I don't know any of my classmates. I've not talked to them. The last time I talked with them was at the 25th anniversary or reunion. I didn't know them then. But the thing I do know is I know who Lee is. And I'm finding out more and more about Lee every day and every moment. And the more I find out about him, the Lee inside, the Lee that's the heart, I love that person. I love him more than I can even imagine to tell you. The ego Lee is the Lee I want to let go of. He's the one who wants to defend. He's the one who wants to be right. The Lee that is love wants to accept, wants to see perfection, wants to have an experience of expectation of everyone I meet and everyone in the world, that they are a whole, perfect, divine, magnificent expression of infinite love. There's nothing greater than love. I want to thank you for joining us today. I am so grateful that you took your time to watch or listen to this message. If you found this message beneficial, I would ask you to go to our website. Once there, click on the Contribute button and experience the joy of conscious and purposeful giving. It is through your gifts that we are able to bring this message to the world. I would also ask you to please share this message with anyone you feel might benefit. Again, I want to thank you for joining me and the Agape community as together we bring joy to life.